So, again, I've never claimed to be a police officer. What I'm offering the county is leadership. That would be something that I would learn over time, and I would be advised through those that have had to deal with jurisdiction. However, the office of the sheriff is a unique one, and that is the only law enforcement in the county for me, for the people. The only one. The only one that can be held accountable directly without many layers of bureaucracy. In the other police agencies, if you have an encounter with them and you have a complaint, you can't, that police officer is not beholden to you. He's beholden to the police chief. The police chief is not beholden to you. He's beholden to the mayor. Now you have an avenue to go and approach that issue that you have. However, there's many layers of bureaucracy in between that make it difficult for you to get any type of resolve. With the sheriff's office, that is not the case, as the sheriff is directly beholden to you, and the deputies that hold the responsibilities and authority of the sheriff directly are beholden to you, and that's how they should be treating you. So that said, jurisdiction within the county, there's many agencies that operate within our county, and each of them have their own jurisdiction. However, it is the sheriff's county, and if the sheriff needs to respond, the sheriff should respond. He's beholden to you, the people. So, yeah, again, I can't give a specific answer to how jurisdiction works, but that is what I have to say on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Robin. Explain how jurisdiction work for the sheriffs and the local police departments, and who would have the authority in each.
So in Pacific County, the sheriff's office has full jurisdiction throughout Pacific County. We have the different cities that are inside of Pacific County. We have the South Bend Police Department, we have the Raven Police Department, we have Chilliwack Bay Indian Tribe, and we have the Long Beach Police Department. We also have other law enforcement, which is Washington State Patrol, who also has full jurisdiction throughout Washington State. So county deputies have authority to make arrests throughout the county, but there's also court systems that are set up specific to those geographical locations. So, like the city of Raymond, for instance, they have their own, obviously their police department. They have jurisdiction, arrest authority within the boundaries of the city of Raymond. But with that, they can also partner with other agencies, so they could partner with the South Bend Police Department, and the South Bend Police Department could give them authorization to have that arrest authority in both cities. I cross-commission and give arrest authority to all of those police departments, so they have full jurisdiction throughout Pacific County. And the reason behind that is that we're small. We're a very small county, and sometimes we have large issues, and there are issues that we can't necessarily address within our own agencies. So it's a teamwork approach. It's to make it so we address these issues as a team, a pool of resources, based, instead of just having it individually to each agency.
We have a lot more questions, but I want to remind everybody that after the question and answer period, our candidates will be staying so that you can meet individually if a question came to you and you forgot to ask. Well, this one was just kind of answered. With a major rise in gun violence in Pacific County recently, what role do you believe the sheriff plays in working to decrease this? I'll start with you, Daniel.
What role does the sheriff play to decrease gun violence? Is that the question? Well, the number one stated thing that a sheriff is supposed to do by RCW legislated is to keep the peace and arrest those that break it. That's number one. So it doesn't matter how or what form that crime or violence or peace breaking comes, it is the responsibility of the sheriff's office to take action to serve the people. So my answer is that it is the sheriff's responsibility, and they need to be responding to calls and addressing it appropriately. That said, I'm full aware that the last few sessions of legislature have been devastating to law enforcement. That said, that legislature doesn't override the number one thing that a sheriff is supposed to do. So I would need to take legal guidance on how not to become a criminal myself, but there has to be a way to serve the people, keep the peace, and arrest those that break it. I don't believe that there's nothing that they can do. That doesn't make sense in my mind. My years in naval special warfare have promoted outside of the box thinking, and that's what I do, and that's what I would bring to the office to figure out how we serve the people. So that's the answer. Thank you.
And the same for you, with the major rise in gun violence in the county, what role do you believe the sheriff plays in working to decrease this?
So with these, I think we need to take a peek at those cases. I think we need to look at those cases. We need to work with our other agencies inside of our county, whether it be mental health, health department in general, and look at these and see if there's other interactions that had occurred in that person's life prior to the incident, and see if there's anything or any way that we could have intervened in that to help. I think it's a learning opportunity for us in those cases, and I think we need to do that and see which people we need to get in the room to help so these don't occur again. Free will is a hard thing to address. We have no control over an individual's mind and exactly what they're going to do at any one given time. But I think we do need to review these cases and see if there's any way that we could have intervened during these, and see if we can address that for, hopefully we don't have future events, but in that case.
This is easy for both of you. What is your educational level?
So I graduated South Bend High School. I did not go to college. I got out of high school and worked in the booster beds for a while. As I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, I got into the reserves. I went to the Reserve Academy, and based on that, I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement. So then I went to the Law Enforcement Academy, and the rest of the state's history.
And the same question for you, please, Dan.
So I graduated from Wood Creek High School, and then I joined the Navy, and in the Navy went through many different schools and trainings of many different things, from basic seamanship to firefighting to electronics repair to explosives and weapons. And then I got off active duty and I went to college for fire science. There I didn't complete my degree as I joined the reserves and started to deploy after that. And after that, all the courses that I've taken have been individual, not in pursuit of any degree, but in pursuit of expanding my knowledge. And I'm still currently a student of life, and so I'm not done with my education. Thank you.
This is to both of you. Will you enforce 1639?
One of the recent House bills.
Yeah.
anybody familiar with this House bill?
No.
Is everybody familiar with this House bill?
No.
No.
Okay, we'll come back to that, we're looking it up right now. I'll give it to you.
I hear you. So they're gonna look up House Bill 1639, so we can give you a brief overview, and then, the sheriff and I can respond to the question.
Okay, it's South.
If the South County only has 2 or 3 holding cells, what will you do about repeat offenders? It says, if South County has only 2 or 3 holding cells, what do you do about repeat offenders?
Send him home.
So, there's holding cells in the South County office, but, that's not where we hold inmates. We hold inmates in South Bend at the Pacific County Jail. And that's where we hold folks. We don't normally hold individuals in the South County facility. And it's because if we put somebody in a holding cell, we have to have staff there to, make sure that they're cared for. So that isn't something that we usually do. Like I said, it's, we house our folks in South Bend.
If I can get the microphone there, I'll send this over to you.
Okay, so, again, the number one legislated thing that a sheriff is supposed to do is, keep the peace and arrest those that break it. The current situation is that our, jail, it can only encompass so many individuals. I think that number sits somewhere between 50 and 60. Currently, we, in general, hold somewhere around 30, or at least that's where it's been floating since I've been looking. Every time that it gets, someone else is about to be brought in, it seems that they somehow matrix the lesser offenders and let them go, so that they have room for the new ones. And the current roster of individuals that are in there are quite eclectic in that the different class of criminals can't just all be put together. There's a handful of females, and I think that there's one transgender, so that also brings in another unique situation on how you keep them all safe. Part of the deal with jailing or arresting somebody is that after they're apprehended, you are now responsible for their safety, and it doesn't matter the reason that you arrested them. You now have to take care of them and protect them and do all the things and feed them and do all that. So that's where we get into the issues of it being difficult. How do we continue to arrest people that are running amok throughout the county? Well, I think that is an answer that needs multiple input sources on how we address that. I don't know why the number floats around 30 when we could take more. I suspect, but it's only speculation, that it has something to do with the individuals that are currently in there and that they can't be held with others, and that the staffing of the jail is not complete and makes it difficult to staff it and ensure that everything is taken care of. So it requires a look under the hood, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and it's been difficult to figure that portion out. I would need to take a look at the current policies of why you can only have a few individuals in the jail when you could physically take more in order to determine a better response. But again, that response, that answer, that solution would need to be created from input from those that are doing the job currently and those that are see the problem and have ideas on how to address it.
So the House Bill, the initiative 1639, It's not that long. So it makes it illegal for a person under 21 of age to buy a semi-auto rifle. Makes it illegal for any person to sell or transfer a semi-automatic rifle to a person under the age of 21. Allows, so it looks like it has to do with firearms transfers. There's also enhanced background checks and a waiting period required. Training requirements to purchase semi-automatic rifle. Criminal liability for failure to safely secure a firearm. And safety warnings and safe storage requirements for dealers. So was the question, what we feel about it? Yeah. Okay. So I think a firearm is a tool. I think if there's an issue with a firearm, it's usually the user that's the issue, not necessarily the tool. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be safe with our firearms. I've been a firearms instructor for many, many years, and we always focus on firearm safety, and it's extremely important because we don't want firearms in the hands of folks that don't need them or shouldn't have them. I think we need to hold the individuals accountable and not necessarily, again, the tools.
So on that, I agree with the sheriff. It's an inanimate object and it is a tool. There's history to prove that banning an object doesn't stop that or those individuals from committing crimes or egregious acts. It removes one tool, and that goes against our Second Amendment rights. And so, yeah, I agree with the sheriff.
This is for both of you. And there were a couple of questions similar to this, so I'll try and get to all of them. How would you each address a situation where your agency arrested someone who was innocent? In essence, how would you handle mistakes that happen in your purview?
So, to err is human. People make mistakes. I think the importance is how we deal with it after we learn of the mistake, and if we repeat the mistake or not. So I think if the mistake is made, then that's fine, as long as we address it and make sure it doesn't continue. What was that part?
How would you handle the mistake that happened? How would you handle that mistake?
Yeah, like I said, we would just make sure it wasn't repeated again, and if somebody needed training to make sure that didn't happen again, then we do that. But like I said, people make mistakes. We just need to make sure that they don't occur again.
Your turn.
Thank you. So after investigation, after figuring out the details of what happened and why, and it was found that it was a mistake, then a public statement would need to be made. And if an apology was warranted, then possibly an apology. If we did wrong, that's a big deal, and the agency, the sheriff's office that is here to protect you and your rights, and we trampled on them, then I would feel we owe you an apology. So then I would give it. So that's what I would do.
Mental health issues drastically affecting our community. What do you believe the sheriff's office role is in mitigating or supporting the mental health crisis? I'll let you start, Bob.
So mental health is huge right now. I was looking at some information in our office, and I looked at calls, and our mental health calls have increased by about 157% in this county. So we're having a lot of issues with mental health. The jail is not the place for these folks. We don't have the resources, we don't have the capabilities to address mental health. That's not where they should be held. We need to be working with our partners to try to figure out a solution for a lot of this, but it's not an easy answer. It's not something that's just gonna be, how do we fix this? Well, you do this. Okay, let's do that. It's not that simple. But we need to work with our partners to try to figure out how we address those issues. We do have some systems in place in our jail to address it. To an extent, it doesn't fix the issue. All it does is it tries to get the individual some resources when they leave our facility. We have a jail liaison that's their responsibility to do. And they coordinate with another liaison that's outside. So these folks, they get evaluations prior to leaving our jail. And then the goal is to try to get them set up so they don't come back. Because like I said, in the jail is not the best place for those folks.
And the same question, do you need me to repeat it? Mental health issues drastically affecting our community. What do you believe the sheriff's office role is in mitigating, supporting the mental health crisis?
All right, so I've requested some meetings from individuals in the county that work in mental health so that I can have a background of what we have available to us in the county and what we don't have available to us in the county. So that it could be put on the priority list of action items to go and seek if we need to go and fight the state for some funding to get a more equipped team to respond with the sheriff's office. If there's some sort of training that we could get the deputies to help de-escalate a situation with someone who is having some mental health issues on the call. Whatever that looks like, those steps I think need to be taken. And so I would need to be advised by the individuals that are currently working in the situation. In addition, I agree with the sheriff that once those individuals do make it to the jail, the availability of the mental health medical treatment or facilities be made available. I don't know what that looks like right now. Again, I need to look under the hood, but I have not yet had that meeting, but I will, and I'll have that information prior to January 1st. At that point, I will solicit input from the command staff to figure out how we approach it. So, thank you.
This is for both of you. What are the restrictions for taking someone to jail, and why are they in place?
What are the restrictions? So, I don't know the restrictions of what stops someone from going to jail. And I'm sure they're in place for a reason. It could be to protect the other inmates in the jail. It could be to protect the deputies, the corrections staff. There could be many reasons. I don't know what those are. So, thank you.
I'm going to go on to one more question, then I'll bring both of them over to Robin. When was the drug force brought back into service?
When? The drug task force was brought back into service toward the beginning of the sheriff's tenure. After some work being done and set up prior to him getting there. I think the drug task force is an extremely important tool. I would want to keep it or maybe expand it to street crimes unit or something of the sort to further address the issues that exist in the county. But in any case, having that capability within the county and it already exists, I think is important and it needs to stay. So thank you.
So the same to you, Robin, if I can get this there. And that was when was the drug force brought back into service? And what are the restrictions for taking someone to jail and why are they in place?
So, Drug Task Force was funded in 2020, and that was a collaboration between the Sheriff's Office, Long Beach Police Department, Raymond Police Department, South Bend Police Department, and the City of Long Beach. Mayor Jerry Phillips had a huge part in that. He reached out, he went up and spoke with state representatives, he went to testify, talked about, the importance of it. He was able to get the right people in the room. We had our state representatives that came to South Bend, and we met in the dispatch meeting room there, and we voiced our concerns. I made a PowerPoint and gave the stats of the different crime rates that we had when there was drug task force in Pacific County and when there wasn't. And we were able to show our state representatives that our community was asking for this funding. And through teamwork, we got funding. We got, it was over $300,000 the first year. And then we reached back out again and we spoke to our state representatives and told them, hey, we were able to get, that funding for that 1 year, but that 1 year of funding was basically for training and equipment. And we didn't want to waste that money. So we said, let's move forward with this. And we asked for another 2 years of funding. So, and we received that, and it was over $730,000 for the next 2 years. And that state money ends in the end of June of 2023, so next year. So we're already starting this conversation again, talking to our state representatives, explaining the importance of continuing this, and we're again asking for over $700,000 for the next 2 years. We have 3 individuals that are full-time on the Drug Task Force. One's employed by the Long Beach Police Department, one's employed by the Raymond Police Department, and one's employed by our Pacific County Sheriff's Office. We also assist the city of South Bend for doing any overtime that they have relating to drug task force activities. So that's kind of where we're at. And then the other part of it is so like I kind of talked about a little bit earlier was our jail is getting older and it's in need of repair. And the issues that we're dealing with right now, that jail is not designed for it. COVID was a big issue for us. We were able to work with our Board of County Commissioners, and we actually got an FDA grant to put negative pressure rooms inside, or a negative pressure room in our med ISO, because we didn't have that capability. The jail shared the same air as the rest of the building. So if one person got sick, everybody got sick. So that really put us in a hard position, because then we had people that were needing to come to jail, but we were afraid that if we put them in jail and they were sick, they were going to get everybody sick, and that we'd be responsible for every inmate that's in there that possibly can have COVID. So, like I said, we reached out, we got assistance from the Board of County Commissioners. I believe it was our money that we got to use. But we got a negative pressure in our med ISO, so we were able to isolate folks when they would come into jail. But so that was a big thing. We were able to use funding through those grants also to put UV lights in the duct system to help with that also. And the other thing too is that we have model inmates. Our population could be, up to 50 people inside the jail. But if we have an individual that is not a model inmate, then it creates classification issues. Because if we have somebody that's just going off the deep end, we can't put somebody else in there with them. So it restricts the amount of people that we can put in jail. The different pods that are set up, one individual could occupy that entire pod and make it so we can't put anybody else in there. So it makes it so you can't accept additional people. So it just kind of depends on the population. It depends on if we have females in there or males in there and what the ratio is for those. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. The other thing too is it's called a chain, but basically if we arrest somebody and they're wanted in a different county, then they get put on this chain to be transported out. Well, with COVID, that transportation was not occurring. So it made it very difficult for us because we couldn't accept some of those based on that.
Okay. Why did you change from independent to Republican?
Repeat that? Repeat the question?
So the question was why?
The question is to Robin, and it was, why did you change from independent to Republican?
I didn't.
This is for both of you. Whose job is it to protect citizens' rights from unconstitutional government overreach in our daily lives?
Well, so everybody who is elected into an office, a public office, takes an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. So it's everyone who is a public official's duty to uphold and defend the Constitution and protect your rights. Everybody has a piece of that pie. I think this question may mean, is it the sheriff's responsibility to take a stand and protect your rights? I think it is. I think it's a part of the duty to service the people. And I think another part of the question is it only for the courts to decide what's constitutional and what rights you have or what rights you don't? That's a part truth. And again, I can't emphasize enough, all those in a public office take an oath. And that oath either means something or it doesn't. I've taken that oath for the last 22 years and it means something to me. So every portion of civic duty that I have before me means something. It's why I vote. It's why I go to school board meetings. It's why I'm sitting here right now. I'm doing my civic duty. So I'm doing my part to try and protect our rights and keep what we have in our country. We have a very unique situation in the United States, and it is the exception. It's not the rule. The rule in the world through history has been tyranny. What we have here is very special. I've been across the entire globe, and other places do not have this. Not Canada, not Mexico, not Europe, not Britain. None of them. None of them have what we have here. And it's very important that everybody do their part so that we don't lose. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So when I took office, I read my oath to support the Constitution and the Washington State Constitution. that's the responsibility of the sheriff. There were some interesting times. There was a lot of stuff talking about the mask mandate and forcing people to wear masks. The stance that I took was that we were going to educate people. We were going to tell people to be good neighbors. Think about the person sitting next to you. But we weren't going to write tickets because you weren't wearing a mask. We weren't going to turn people into having misdemeanors on their records because they decided not to wear a mask. But I also felt that it was important to, like I said, educate folks and be a decent person and think about the person next to you and not necessarily yourself and how you felt. I think sometimes we lose that. It's more of what's in it for me and then what can I do for you. So I think it's a common sense approach when we start getting into that. But yeah.
This is for both. Can the administration staff work upon deputy? Let me reread that. Can the administration staff work in open deputy shifts? Why and why not? And I think I'll just return this to you.
So, if I'm getting the question, can non-union employees work union jobs? So, if we have an open shift and it's put out to bid and nobody picks up that shift, then we can step in and cover that shift because that's part of our responsibility. If there is an open shift though, and we don't say, in 2 weeks, we're gonna have an opening on Friday from, 4 to midnight, and I just say, no, I'm gonna work it myself. I can't do that, because then that would violate our agreement with the Teamsters Union.
It was for both of you, so do you need me to repeat that?
Yeah.
Okay, can the administration staff work deputy shifts? Why or why not?
Okay, yeah, sure, I think that means the command staff, the ones that are law enforcement in there, and, so that's excellent answer. I think it's part of their duty that if there is a hole, that it be filled, and it be filled by those in the command staff. It's a duty and a responsibility to the people, and if there needs to be coverage, that coverage needs to be held. So I don't know the details in the agreement between the Teamsters Union and the sheriff. However, I do know that the sheriff is the sheriff, and the primary purpose is to keep the peace and arrest those that break it. So whatever needs to be done should and can be done.
I want to remind everybody that although we will close this, the candidates will speak to you. I have so many more questions. I thank you all for having written them. Unfortunately, I can see I won't be able to get to all of them, so we'll move along here as quickly as we can. The position basically, it says that the position you're running for comes with great responsibility, integrity, and fortitude. How would you handle conduct issues with subordinate employees? And what lessons would you say you have to learn from that you've learned from any past issues?
And you kind of have that question already. You want to go another?
Yes.
Okay, this is interesting. I know how to choose my local judge, I read his or her judicial decisions. I know how to choose my legislator. I read their proposed legislation. How should I choose my sheriff?
With love and respect. I think folks need to educate themselves. I think they need to talk to their neighbor, talk to their friends, talk to folks that have had communications with sheriffs. Come talk to me. Come go talk to your sheriff. I have an open door policy. You know, and a lot of the questions that I've heard and seen on Facebook about different things that, yeah. I have an open door policy. If you have a question, come see me. We'll talk about it. But I think you need to make sure that you ask the questions. Reach out. Just don't circle box. Ask the questions.
I'll let you keep this because I need you to answer. Were any deputies fired for refusing the COVID mandate? Would you rehire anyone who refused the mandate?
We didn't fire anybody for not wearing a mask or getting a vaccine. We actually hired some folks that were let go from the state for that reason. So, similar to the mask mandate, I think it's personal choice, and I think the state lost some good employees because of that.
And since it was for both of you, I'll kind of phrase it this way. Would you hire anyone who refused the mandate?
Yes, that's not a question that should matter in hiring. The things that matter to me are utmost of character, a selfless devotion to the county, and then experience, and in whatever form, fashion, gender, or anything of the sort, any other arbitrary descriptor of somebody, whatever that lands up being, if they meet that criteria, well then they're candidate. That's what I think. Is that other question for me as well, or was that just for?
Okay, we have a lot of questions left, but if these candidates are going to have any time at all to speak with people here, I'm going to have to call this to an end. So thank you all for coming. Take your questions that weren't answered directly to the candidates now. Thank you.